Hey everybody, good morning. It's about 8:07 in the morning here. It is the 20th of December 2022. What I'm going to be doing today is my normal update on the S&P 500. I also want to take a look at NASDAQ, which I haven't done in a few days now. And last but not least, I do want to take just a little peek at Bitcoin as there is a little bit of a chart formation I see there, which is important to mention. So before I get into all of this, as you all know, this is not financial advice. Not your financial advisor. You're responsible for your own trades, managing your own risk, doing your own research, and I'm just giving my opinion on the market. So let's go ahead and move on over into the chart. Before we get into this, I do want to point out that I have released a new indicator out to our members. That's the volume indicator that you'll see up at the top of the screen. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about like how it works, but it does look at volume and tries to make a best guess as to what kind of buying pressure or selling pressure that there is based on the data that's available. All right, so if you are a member and you don't have access to it, just shoot a message in the Discord and I'll make sure that you get access to that indicator as well. So I'm here looking at NASDAQ. All right, so I just want to point out a couple things here. Not a whole lot to to really discuss. There's a whole lot of talk about whether this whole move here is done or if we've got another leg lower to go. I'm in the camp that we've completed a 1-2 here, and then we've got a little 1-2 here. And then, of course, a longer wave 3, which we could count as a 1-2, 1-2, 3, 4, 5 into the 3, 4, 5 into wave 3. And then a little bit of a sideways correction into wave 4. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the larger wave 3, which means, if this is right, then what we should be seeing here, of course, is going to be, like an A, a B, and a C. But the trajectory of this only gets us up to the 236 based on what I see here from a geometrical standpoint. What I'd really like to see is something that actually extends out a little bit longer, right, and then gets us up here to this 382. And again, I would be looking for something like this to hit over the next 24 to 48 hours. I'm still looking for that move up, right? I guess disclaimer, I'm long on ES, and so I'm kind of waiting for this to complete. Last week, and I'll talk about this when I get to the S&P, but last week I was expecting this move up to occur actually starting yesterday, and that didn't happen at all. Yesterday was a very red day all day. Right. And so now here we are, we're starting to see a little bit of absorption, right? So we do talk a little bit about absorption. I'll talk about that a little bit more when I get into the S&P. But nonetheless, there's a good potential that this is done. What I would really like to see is this bearish divergence here. It's actually hidden bearish divergence. I'd like to see it sort of reset, let it play out, right? I'm only on a 30-minute time frame, so nothing super long term here. I'd like to see that play out before we see that move to go up here to about 11,425 on NQ. Now, again, another disclaimer, I'm not an NQ trader, I'm an ES trader. So I look at this just to kind of get a more broad idea on what the market is doing versus, looking at this chart to actually trade it, which is evidenced by me not spending a whole lot of time looking at this chart in the past and just getting into it, looking at it right now, just seeing where things are at. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on into the S&P 500. And there are a few things here that I do want to discuss. All right, so absorption. Last night there was a major announcement from the Bank of Japan talking about interest rates and bond buybacks and all kinds of things that had a negative effect in overseas markets, and for Japan, overseas is us. So there was a major rally in the Japanese currency versus basically every other currency that's out there. If you took a look at USD JPY, you would see that there was a major move, and this again happened at the 2200 hour last night. And that was the cause of a lot of things happening in the market. Taking a look at the dollar index, right, we also saw a big move there last night. That was this move right here at the 2200 hour. Basically had a decent pullback in the dollar index. And what that means is the dollar was being devalued against other global currencies. So the US dollar currency index is the index of the strength of the dollar versus other currencies. Now, we've since sort of absorbed about half of that, right? And, it looks like we got a good buy signal on DXY on this 30-minute time frame, which we haven't had in a long time. We haven't had any good buy signals on DXY in a long time. Some things that could be seen negatively here is we've got the red wave and the white wave, which are still moving down. So any upward move is going to be met with a little bit of resistance. But let's get back to the S&P 500. So there is good potential that we have seen, again, very similar to NASDAQ. It's a good potential that we've seen the bottom of wave 3 here. Now, again, very similar count. We've got this 3, wave 4, and then a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here into a larger wave 3, which means we would be going into a wave 4. Now, the reason why I don't think all 5 waves are in yet is, the subdivision doesn't look all that great to complete all 5 waves. Honestly, I'm kind of struggling to count the bottom of wave 3 right here. I still believe that, there is still potential for a move down here, or at least a move down to about 37.85. And, one of the reasons why, if I go ahead and zoom out a little bit, what I kind of expected to see is a move down here to this area where we had on November the 10th, right? And we almost went down there, right? When we came all the way down here, almost to 3,800, right? We almost got to 3,800, but then we saw a nice rebound. And again, that move to 3,800 occurred at the same time that news drop from the Bank of Japan. And that, again, was right here at the 2200 hour, right? So we had a big swift move down, and that was almost a 1% move down on the S&P 500, which is significant in and of itself. But then we continued to bleed for, a couple hours after that. We found this bottom here at, let me just make sure that I pin that right, 3803.50, right? That was really the bottom, almost 3,800. And of course, if you're looking at the S&P 500, the actual index, we went down to about 3780 or so, 3785. So it was a significant move down. So we had that break of 3,800, and then we've since absorbed it, right? So now I think everybody can probably see this. If we take a look at this, it's almost clear as crystal that we have a left shoulder, a right shoulder, a head, and then we're working on our left shoulder before we see that move up to, again, that target is going to be sitting up there at about 39.11. Let's go ahead and measure it just to, just to see, and we're going to look at the symmetry of this and try and get this as close as possible to where a realistic target would be. So again, what I'm going to be doing here is, on the assumption that we do break out of this, which I have no reason to believe that we won't, from the bottom here to the neckline, and then we'll take the pullback target, our 100% is going to be sitting there at 38.95, right? I'd love to see a move up to 39.11, right? That's going to be your 382 target, but the inverted head and shoulders target is going to be sitting there at about 38.95. That would be, that'd be realistic, right? It's only about a 60-point move from where we're at right now. That's not super significant, to be fair. I think there's a lot of people that are expecting a move up here to the 50 or the 618 or even higher. I'm not so sure that that's going to be in the cards, but that doesn't change the fact that I happen to be long on ES futures at this point in time. Going back to the hourly time frame, I just want to again continue to put an emphasis on what chart formation that we had, and again, it was right here where we were talking about this chart formation, right? We have a high here, we have a higher high, and then we have a higher high, and the symmetry of these is almost perfect. Then we had a low here, we had the same low here, and then, when we were here, I said, we're probably going to break down. More often than not, this chart formation breaks down. Exactly like more often than not, this chart formation is a continuation, right? And that's exactly what we had. We had a little A, B, C, D, E. You could even count this as an ABC into a wave 4, and then this wave 5 would be a nice little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It actually works a little better that way, but nonetheless, chart formations are actually important, right? So I said at the time, these chart formations more often than not break down more than they break up. That isn't a continuation formation, right? This is a pattern where the flat bottom is typically what breaks, and that's exactly what happened. Now, the other thing that I discussed during that call, I call it a call, but during the video, right, that I was doing live, is where it breaks down is going to determine where that target is going to be for the breakdown, right? So you'll notice that the 50 is right at the bottom of this, right? So the 50% is right at the bottom of this. And even if I measured the entire move from the top to the bottom, you've got the 382 almost right at the bottom of this. So a move up to 39.45 would really make a lot of sense. That would mean the S&P 500 would get up to 3,900, maybe break 3,900 before it then continues down. I would love to see that, to be completely honest. With the longs that I'm currently in on the S&P, it would be fine for us to get up there. A lot of the members on the Discord, we closed our short positions right down here, basically because, and I'm going to go ahead and move some of this out of the way just to clear things up a little bit, because I want to point out one of the reasons why we did take profit on some of the positions that we had that were short yesterday. So what we saw this 1, 2, right? And we measured this dominant pivot high, dominant pivot low, pullback, right? We always look for the 1618 to the 175. And that's exactly what we got right here. So when we got to these levels, and I had a key level right here at 3838. When we got to these levels, it also happened to mark the test of 3800 on the S&P, the actual index. When we tested 3800, that's when a lot of us decided we're going to close some of our short positions that we had been in. I'm still holding a short on the Dow Jones, but on the S&P 500, I'm currently long, and I consider that a hedge, right? But I'm currently long on this, again, expecting that move up. Really, what I'd like to see is a test up here again of 38.95. Right, so we've got good confluence here that there's going to be a decent amount of resistance at that level, and that's caused by this candle here, this wick right here, and all of these candles right here. They found resistance at that 38.95 level. And it probably, if I put the 236 on here, it's just right below that area. So, nothing too significant there from a fib standpoint, but I would expect there to be at least some resistance here at the at the 38.95 level, and then to maybe continue up here into that 382. So we might see something that, resembles a little bit of, ABC, right? And then find a little bit of support here. And then we see that move to go up a little higher. And this would take us up into Wednesday. And that would make, honestly, it would make a whole lot of sense. And if we take this forward just a little bit, and we take that to the end of the day on Wednesday, that would honestly be one of the best case scenarios that we've got. Because again, I'm expecting an upward move into, and this would be the end of the day tomorrow. So for the next couple days, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if we did see a move up. But ultimately, I'd be looking to short the retest of this bearish structure, which I'll go ahead and extend this out because that level is going to be important, and we haven't really tested it yet. So when we do, I'll be there to close out some of the long positions that I'm in, and I'll be looking to get back into some of the conservative shorts. Because if I'm right, well, then we're going to see a move down, right? At least down here to our target, which is going to be at about 37.20, 37.15. That area is going to be it's going to be key for creating a bit of a bottom here for the duration of 2022, and we're getting really close to the end of the year here. So, what about Bitcoin? All right, so let's go ahead. Let me take a look at our good friend Bitcoin here. I do want to, kind of look at this a little bit because we do see a few things going on right now. I'm going to go to a lower time frame. So if I go down to like a 15-minute time frame, right, looking at this, I was watching the structure last night. So we closed out of the short position that we got into literally at the tip here. We got into a short position right here at 16,900, and the high on here was 16,900. I had my order in and I saw that it hit 16,900, and I actually thought to myself, gosh, I wonder if my order filled. And sure enough, I went. The order did fill. We had a swift rejection off of that. And, I didn't really at the time have any reason to believe that Bitcoin was going to retest that. So, we moved our stop down a little bit, and then, the price started moving down, and I said, all right, well, we're going to move our stop down a little bit more. When we had this move right here, we moved our stop to 16,775, which was basically right here at this high. And then when we had this big move again at 5:30 p.m. yesterday, when we had that move, we all closed out of our short positions because this is the type of move that you have to take advantage of. We did take a long, but I didn't hold on to that long, and of course, hindsight's 2020. What I did start to see was this, right? So we did have this wedge structure, and just for the record, this is the almost the exact chart pattern that we saw on the S&P 500 in the opposite way, right? In the S&P 500, we had a flat bottom, which again usually breaks down. In this case, we had a flat top, which usually breaks up. And then we broke up above it, and then what did we do? We retested it, and again, this is what I'm expecting to do with the S&P 500 over the next few days here. But after we do a retest of that, what I'm really expecting is something similar to this, right? But obviously, talking in terms of the S&P 500, I'm expecting the opposite thing to happen. When we do a retest of this, I'm expecting the S&P to go down. But in this case, it went up. But now, here we are. We're trying desperately, Bitcoin is trying desperately to push through this fib level that's been sitting here at 16,847.50. It hasn't done it yet. That level is key, right? If we can get above 16,850, I will probably consider getting into some long positions. Now, of course, I was talking on the Discord several weeks ago, right? When Bitcoin did its initial test of 16,000, I was all on board with buying Bitcoin. We were talking about buying spot on Bitcoin at 16,000. Basically, the moment that we hit that level, and I'm still holding on to that. I'm not letting that go because that is something that I purchased for long term. It's not something that I'm trading at all. It's sitting over in my wallet. I'm not touching it. It's not on an exchange. In fact, none of my money is on an exchange right now. With the exception of a couple small altcoins that I can't put in the wallet that I'm currently using, but nonetheless, that is that's money that I'm not going to be making any trades with. That's just going to kind of be sitting there. So let's go ahead and zoom out here, right? A couple things to note. All right, so yesterday we were kind of flirting with the 618 here. We weren't hitting it, right? So we weren't hitting that 618, but when we did, we pushed through it very, very hard, right? So that's not a good 618 play in my book, right? We've been talking and we have discussed numerous times in the past the fact that this pattern right here, let me go ahead and put this out. And if there's any pattern traders out there, you'll probably like this. Looking at this and then right here, we were discussing this almost the whole way up. I'm going to go to like a 2-hour time frame. I think that's going to look a little bit better here, right? So looking at this, what we've got is, in my opinion, we've got an ABC, mostly because I believe this sideways action right here is indicative of like a B wave, right? So looking at this, what we potentially have here is an ABC into an A, then we've got an ABC into a B, and then A, B, C into a wave C, right? We've discussed this, but also there is really good potential because this wave 4, I was really expecting to come up here to this trend line, which if I zoom out even more and pull this down, this is what I'm looking at, right? So this is a strong potential. Now, I'm not long right now, obviously, but I'm interested in looking for a short position at some point, although honestly, I'm more interested in shorting altcoins than I am Bitcoin. And if you watched the video that I did in our members channel on Bitcoin dominance, you may want to go and check that out if you haven't. So looking at the structure here, this again looks pretty corrective. We came down and we are creating overlap. We're creating overlap. We still have a little bit of a higher low here, right? Now, ideally, would we hit this 786? Yeah, because we broke through the 618. And we had a deep move below that 618. So let's go ahead and move this forward, pull this out. We still have low volume. And the volume that we are seeing predominantly is negative, right? We do have moments there where we do have some positive volume, and that was on these big green candles right here. But the volume for the most part predominantly has been negative volume. And if there's any green volume, it's really not a whole lot. Now, of course, that can change at any point in time. Volume can come in at any time. So now if I do a little pullback on this, right, from right there, the 100 is sitting right here, right close to that 236, which is going to be about 19,163. Is it possible that we get up there before January? Yeah, more than likely. Is it possible that we get there here at New Year's? That is also very, very possible, right? So watching this structure unfold is really going to be key. And that negative 236 target, just for the record, that's really only super valid. It's always a valid target, right? But it's best traded on an exact 618 or a golden zone pullback. Now that we've broken below that, that negative 236 is still going to be sitting there, but I do have to look at other methods to make a determination on where things are going to go. And currently, I'm seeing this move up here I'm seeing it as being pretty realistic at this point in time. So let's go ahead and move this out, and just to watch this, because the duration of time that it took we're going to do this from this low to this high here, and we're going to get the pullback right there, right? How much time is it going to take to complete this structure? Well, if we take the same amount of time, it's not going to happen until all the way out here on January 11th. If it takes half the amount of time, let's change this to the 0.5. If it takes half the amount of time, that takes us up to New Year's Eve. That makes a lot of sense. I'm starting to see a lot of confluence at this day and at this time. I'm going to go ahead and pocket this out right here, because if we do happen to see that rally into New Year's, I would say that it's very likely that this is where we're going to land on New Year's Eve. And again, that'd be a move up to about 19,150, 19,300. That would make a whole lot of sense. And again, I would be very interested in getting into some short positions at that time. Looking at the 4-hour wave, we created some bullish divergence, which is something that I'm always on the lookout for. We have a lower low on the price. And then, of course, the indicator has a higher low right here. So again, give it some time, right? We're going to have another wave down, maybe another 2 waves down before we see the cycle complete and we get to New Year's Eve. Now, New Year's Eve is, it's like, 11 days away, right? So we've got lots of time before this happens, right? So this is not this coming Saturday, but next Saturday, that's when this is, likely going to hit. And we do see major tops and major bottoms that do occur on New Year's. We see that happen all the time. Let me go to a daily time frame here for a moment. I'm going to go back to New Year's Eve in 2020. Okay, so in 2020, and I've got to go to a different chart because this chart was not available at that time. So in 2020, we had a decent bottom, right? And this was right around here. This was January 3rd, but nonetheless, this time frame was when we had a decent bottom in the market. And New Year's tends to be those time periods where you do get major tops and major bottoms in markets. So here in 2019, right, January of 2019, of course, we did have, kind of a major top right here. And this was like in the first few days of 2019. We had a good move up, and that was on January 6th, right, on the weekend. And then we had a good move down, right? So that was a nice pivot. Right here was a nice pivot. We had a move down, and then we had a good move up, right? That was a decent move. That went from all the way down here at 69.30 all the way up here to the top at at 10,500. So that was a 51% move. And again, going into 2021, what did we have here? Right? Again, at the very beginning of the year, we had a good pivot. We had a run up, right? We had a good pivot at New Year. So that was a run into the New Year, a good pivot to the downside. And then, of course, in 2022, again, we had a little bit of a move up here in Christmas. And then what ended up happening right there, right around New Year's, right? It doesn't always happen on New Year's, right? As I'm kind of projecting here, right around New Year's, we had a good move up into New Year's and then a major move down, right? And then this happened to be at a time where we had a major move down, and then we were having this move up, and that was the top of this corrective move, and then we had a major move down. So now here we are. We've got this move down, right? And we're currently on this move down. We're looking for that move up, right? Who knows where it's going to land? Let me go ahead and clear some of this and put that same pattern on this chart that I have over on my other chart. But this is the trend line right here. So again, if we do happen to get that move up into New Year's, right here, if we do happen to get that going into New Year's, well, watch out for that move down, which if we get that move down, it's really what I'm looking for, right? What I'm looking for is for Bitcoin to do something a little bit like this. And so that would take basically into February, right? Which is where I'm also expecting there to be a decent bottom in the S&P 500. If this happens on Bitcoin, it's really just it's really a perfect storm, because I'm really expecting there to be a decent bottom in most of the markets around this time frame. And if this pattern holds, right, we have the potential for our 1, 2, 3, working on 4, and then we go down for wave 5. It's still too early to confirm a pattern like this, but this is something that we should all be paying attention to. On the daily, we have a little bit of a buy signal here. We don't have any divergence that's really worth mentioning here. We do have a higher low on the price, right? Let me magnify that a little bit. We do have a higher low on the price. The indicator is really just creating a little bit of a double bottom. That's not divergence, in my opinion. It's even if it was, it's not divergence to to really give too much weight to, because what you really need is a significant higher low or a lower low, versus just having it be a little flat. And it does look like the daily is going to start to curl upward at this point, because right now we do have a little bit of a bullish engulfing candle on the daily, which is quite nice to see, and we haven't seen this in a while. So again, going back down to like this 5-minute time frame, keep an eye on this pattern, which is trying to break. It's trying to break, right? And it's caused by this wick right here, right? What did we have? We had a little bit of a swing failure pattern right here where we went up to a higher high, then we got sold off. But now it's pounding, pounding, pounding. It wants to break through. So if we do break through this, then I believe we will continue moving higher. If we can hold even a 5-minute candle above that level, then I do believe we're going to see higher prices on Bitcoin. And that's going to be at about 16,850. Now, if you know me, and if you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that when I trade options, I am a breakout trader, right? So if all the conditions are right, this would be one of those opportunities, again, where if you follow me and you know how I trade options, that would be something that I would be interested in taking to the upside, right? And of course, your stop loss would have to be somewhere down here at these lows, which crypto does like to raid, which is why I don't trade crypto on high leverage, specifically for this reason. Even though a move like this on Bitcoin is only like a 0.5% move, if you're doing 10x leverage, that's 5%, and you can do the math from there. But again, if you are interested in trading along on a breakout of the structure, first off, you have to be very careful with your stop loss. But second off, what are the key levels that we currently have on Bitcoin right now? Let me go ahead and outline these for you because this is also important. I'm going to outline these up to this level right here at 19,200. So the first level is going to be right here. So let me get my tool. I'm going to go ahead and outline these now. And I'm going to be basing the first level off of this candle closure right here, the daily close, and then of course the daily open, right? No coincidence there. Which was, also caused lots of support here for day after day after day after day after day. And then it moved up, came back, retested it again before it moved higher. Came back, we retested it, moved higher. Came back, we retested it day after day. This was for the better part of about a week and a half. And then it continued even longer, basing at this level, went up again, created a lower high, right? So we have a high here, we have a lower high here, we created a lower high here, and then we broke down. We broke down below this level with force, right? So that's an important level that we need to be paying attention to. The next level is going to be right here at the bottom of this wick. Okay, again, this shouldn't be a surprise to you that we wicked at the bottom here, but then we had a daily candle closure right here. This was resistance. We tried to break up above it and we were rejected. This is going to be resistance at 17,567.45. And again, this is on the Coinbase prices. So, your perpetual contracts or your inverse swaps, they're going to be a little bit different from a price perspective. But then last but not least, the other important level I see is going to be right here, which is created by this wick, this wick, this wick right here on this November 10th candle, and then of course this shooting star that we had right here. These are all going to be levels that are going to be resistance moving forward. So again, if you're looking at trading the breakout, I'm going to put a level right here down below. That's going to be probably your first take profit. So we are at an important level right now. Let me move down to a 4-hour just to show you what I mean, that we are at an important level right now. This level right here, which I'm going to change the color on, right? So again, if you're familiar with how I do my levels, this should not be a surprise to you. We've got an important level right there at 16,888, caused by these resistance clusters right here, caused by these support clusters right here, and then we have resistance right here, and then we've got support right here. We have resistance right there. So again, breaking through this level here, 16,855, gives me confidence that we are going to move higher, but I would still like to see a move above this level, which is at, again, about 16,889. We'll call it 16,900 just to keep things even. But then more often than not, and again, if you're not familiar with trading options, this might not make a whole lot of sense to you. But what I would really expect to see is a break up here. What I want to see is a little bit of, sideways action here, maybe do a retest of this before it moves higher, hits that level, right? I'd like to see it go through that level, find some support here, and then we move even higher to the next level. And maybe from there we do see a little bit of a rejection, but then a move up above it would be ideal, right? Find some support above this level before it moves up to the next level. Price generally moves from level to level to level. This is how support and resistance levels, this is how they come to be. So the 30-minute wave looks pretty good. It's done a little bit of a pullback while the price has moved sideways. Looks pretty healthy to me. So more than likely, we are going to see Bitcoin move up for the next couple days. We'll have to wait and see what happens by, say, end of day tomorrow. And then, of course, we're going to be watching the S&P, watching what it does. And that's what I'm mostly interested in. But Bitcoin is, it's been defying what the S&P has been doing over the last couple months, actually. If I wanted to, let me see if I've got this handy over here. Okay, taking a look at this chart. Let me actually change this to where I only have two charts here, because what I want to look at is I want to take a look at Bitcoin, right, versus the S&P 500. So let me just kind of compare these two together. I'm not going to do the daily. I'm going to move down to, I'm going to do the daily. Sorry, excuse me. Let's take a look at the daily and just watch and see what has happened with the S&P versus Bitcoin, right? So let me see if I can get these lined up with each other a little bit here. Let's see here. Going to do that. Going to do this. And of course, the S&P doesn't trade on the weekends like Bitcoin does. So I'm going to have to try and get this as close as possible. Okay, so this kind of puts things pretty close here. I'm going to try and pin the 15th of June right here. So what can we see happened with the S&P 500 from June 16th, the bottom here on June 16th, to the top here of August 16th? So let's just go ahead and look at this. We had an 18% move on the S&P 500, and then from the bottom here to the top right here, we had a 42% move on Bitcoin. But in relative terms, that wasn't a whole lot for Bitcoin that we would expect, compared to that was a whole lot on the S&P 500. But Bitcoin, was just kind of moving sideways. But then what ended up happening after that, the S&P 500 dropped all the way through October 13th, dropped 20%, almost 20%. What did Bitcoin do in that amount of time? From up here, from the top, to this was October 13th, right? That was right here. Bitcoin only dropped 27%. It really stayed in the same range. Whereas on the S&P, we had a major move up, and then we had a major move down outside of the range. Then we saw the S&P 500 have a significant move to the upside, while Bitcoin moved up and then it fell, right? So right here on November 9th, Bitcoin and the S&P 500 dropped. The next day, S&P 500 was making new highs where Bitcoin only retraced half of that. And that's important. That's a sign of weakness compared to general equities. But at the same time, Bitcoin has been beat up so much, and it hasn't, it hasn't really capitulated a whole lot. I mean, to be fair, the S&P 500 hasn't capitulated either. But, watch this structure, because, we've got lots of support lots of previous support that is likely going to be resistance moving forward. So we have to be careful for that. So if the S&P 500 starts to move up and Bitcoin moves up significantly more than the S&P, then you can start to see that the tables are shifting and money is going to be more interested in Bitcoin than it is in the S&P. Whereas previously, right here, the S&P made a new local high, but Bitcoin only retraced half of that. And by the way, it hasn't recovered any more of that. It's still back down here where it was. And same thing with the S&P, right? The S&P is also right back here where it was. Now, again, I do see some upside for the next couple days. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. I do see some upside for the next couple days. I would still be very cautious on a major run into the new year. I do think that there is potential that we could have a decent run into the new year, but just be careful trying not to put all your eggs in one basket, and trying to be cautious, especially with leverage. I also did a leverage video the other day. It's a public video, so feel free to go and watch that because it does talk about leverage and the dangers of it, and so just be very careful with that. All right. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. So if this video did help you in any way, shape, or form, you know the deal. Like, subscribe, share. If you need access to our Discord, access to our indicators, both the Wavemaster and the volume analysis indicator. If you need access to any of our educational content that we have on our Discord, you can find all that information on BitDoctor.org. And if you need access to the Discord, you can find the link here on your screen. Also, you can find the link in the video description. And last but not least, wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a good day, good night, and a good evening. Take care, everyone.